and welcome everyone. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about the type of switches and the hierarchical design of the switches in Cisco series. So, I would like to highlight a very basic point. Like, as we know, yes, we have the switches where we can go ahead and make use of this to connect your end user devices. Of course, yes, you can use this to connect your end user devices. The point is, this switches you can get into two type. There might be some of the switches you will get with the manageable switch and some of the switches unmanageable switches. So that's what we are going to discuss in the type of switches in the Cisco series as well. See this. There is two type of switches we have. We have the manageable switch and non-manageable switch, or maybe unmanageable switch we can consider. So manageable switch in the sense, in manageable switches we can go ahead and assign the IP addresses. Also we can go ahead and configure the other kind of configurations also, because it has the console ports. So make sure manageable switches, you can go ahead and configure the IP addresses. You can go ahead and configure the other protocols which is supported on layer 2 technologies, because it has the console port. When it comes to the non-manageable switches or unmanageable switches, so the major point is you cannot perform any kind of configuration on these kind of switches, and there is no console port in this kind of switches. That's the main reason we cannot perform any configurations. So make sure most of the time when we have any switch, we are taking it and we are going to plug and play. So make sure that switch is basically considered as the unmanageable switch. Directly plug and play. When it comes to manageable switches, you can go ahead and perform your custom configurations based on your requirements. That's where you will be using your console port to this. Now, when it comes to the hierarchical design of the switches in this scope, we have three layers of switches. We have the access layer, which is the major one. Then we have the distribution layer and the core layer of switches. Make sure access layer switches are basically used for small offices, or maybe you can say a small network. Basic layer of switches in which these two series switches which is being used, this is outdated. When it comes to distribution layer switches, we also call it as multi-layer switches. Multi-layer switches in the sense we can perform the layer 2 operations as well as layer 3 operations as well. Now, when it comes to this distribution layer switches, you have two different type of switches available here. We have some fixed switches and we have some modular switches as well. In fixed, this is basically the series of your switches, and this is your modular, where this is outdated and this you may find in the production. Similarly, when it comes to the core layer of switches, this is basically for very high-end requirement, because this is the backbone of any of the ISPs, and this switch is generally used in data centers to transfer huge amount of information from one data centers to another data center. That's the main reason of your core layer switches. So this is what the three layer of switches we have. Just to understand this same, I would like to show you one of the scenario so that it will be more clear to you. Say this. So the design will be like this. I'll show you. So some switch is here, and then some switches are here, and after that we have our, let's say, our LAN connectivity, maybe your PCs which is getting connected here. So it will be more clear after some time. Just hold on for a moment. Yep, done. Say this. So the connectivity is here, is again like this tree structure. Like this the connectivity we can consider. So what exactly is this? Say this. Basically this we are going to consider as, this is our PCs which we have, or you can consider as your end user devices which is there. You can consider as this. After that your end user devices will get connected with your layer 2 switches, which is basically your access layer switches, like this, and then it will get connected with your distribution layer of switches. That's where your multi-layer switches may be. And next you have your core layer of switches is here. So this is your 3-layer of hierarchy. You can say that. For example, you can say this is my layer 1, my layer 2, and layer 3. This is what you have, the different layers of hierarchy. And this is the major design which you will find. And of course there are many possibility that if you have many switches available, you can have the different kind of connectivity as well. But this is what a standard that we follow generally. Layer 1 access layer, then distribution, which is middle, and the core layer of switches, which is very high in configuration of switches we have. So Cisco had categorizes this, and this is what the same. So I hope this is clear to you. So that's it for this particular lecture. I will see you in the